Next, we will discuss writability. So writability means with how little effort you can perform big tasks, or with how little lines of code you can go on to perform large operations. So we know that Python is an incredibly writability friendly language. You can write small lines of code in Python to perform really large tasks. On the other hand, we know that assembly language isn't very writability friendly. In assembly language, to perform simplest tasks, you would have to write lengthy lines of codes because it is a language that is close to hardware. In assembly language, any simple task requires a hardware understanding as well, and you would have to write a code from a hardware point of view. Therefore, it has less writability. We have to also realize that writability not only depends on the language, but it also depends on the programmer utilizing the language as well. How efficient he is in his coding skills, that how he is able to express the writability. Here we have a code of a maximum function. The function accepts two numbers, integer x and y, and returns the number that is the higher of the two. So in C++ or in C language, we could write it in one line through conditional operator. Max is equal to x is bigger than equal to y question mark x colon y, which is equivalent to if x is bigger than or equal to y, then maximum is equal to x, else maximum is equal to y. So here we see that while our writability has increased, but our readability has decreased as well, because the statement maximum is equal to x is bigger than equal to y question mark x colon y. It seems a bit difficult to read. It doesn't offer readability. But the other set of statements, 4 lines of code here, have much more readability but much less writability. So we see that it oftentimes occurs that several principles of programming conflict with each other. It is up to the programmer on which approach he uses. The idea here, the big picture here, is that we should be knowing what we are doing. That is basically the point. Next, we have reusability. It means language is providing such constructs or elements through which we can write reusable code. So how do we achieve that? We achieve that through the use of functions and classes. So reusability depends on the language being utilized, what language you are using. For instance, Java, C++, Python, etc. Each of these languages will have its own set of constructs, their own rules through which you can utilize reusability, and it also depends on the efficiency of the programmer at hand. So now let's take a look at an example. So suppose we have a code that returns the maximum of 2 numbers. So inside our main body we have this code, int a is equal to 5, int b equals 6, if a is bigger than equal to b, int max equal to 0. If a is bigger than or equal to b, then max is equal to a, else max equals b. Please note that in this example I am not using the programming practices. This is just to show the reusability. Here I am not using proper variable names or the proper formatting. This one is just for demonstration of reusability example. So here I have a maximum function from lines 10 to 13 that is calculating my maximum variable out of these two variables a and b. So for instance, now I am doing some sort of calculations here, and now I want to find out the maximum again. So what I would do is I would just copy paste here and paste it here. Now this piece of code is a very bad example of reusability. When we have more tasks to do, we will be just simply copy pasting the code. This isn't a good programming practice, and this isn't a good software or object oriented programming practice. So how do we ensure reusability in our programs? By making functions or classes. Here the code for maximum, I will make a function of it. Let's make a function int maximum. It takes two variables, int a, int b, and now we will write our code here. Return max. Alright, so now we have a function. Now whenever we need to calculate our maximum variable, we will be just using that function. So here now it would be much better if we just call the function twice. First we will call it once, do our calculations, and then we will call it again. That is what we mean by reusability. So let me demonstrate. It's the name max a b. There we go. Therefore, you see, this is what is meant by reusability. Without having to copy paste again and again, we are just calling our function and computing the maximum variable. Next, classes can also be used to enhance reusability as well. For instance, you can think of it in terms of a person's class that has different attributes such as string, name, date of birth, integer, age, string, address. So instead of writing the same attributes again and again in different classes such as customer class, such as librarian class, you just use a variable of the person class and insert it in the class through composition. So without having to rewrite same attributes in all the classes, you just contain an object of the common class, and that is how you will be using classes to enhance reusability.